spark that hit me was basically being um, a teenager with major self-esteem problems. So in school, I was the geek, I was the nerd, I was the guy who got beat up, and I felt so alienated from everyone else. I had no friends as a teenager. In my entire teenage life, I remember going out with friends twice in a span of like 6 years. In my entire teenage life, I never had a girlfriend. I never had a single friend visit my home from school. Now, what I did have was books. I love books. And my dad was an avid reader. And in my big room, I had over 1,000 books. So I was the smart kid. I was often like #1 in my class. And that made people hate me even more. I started reading all the personal growth classics from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The book that had the biggest impact on me was The Silva Mind Control Method by Jose Silva, which is a book by the guy who first kind of brought meditation to America, a guy from Laredo, Texas. So I started meditating at the age of 14. Literally at 14, I was crazy about meditation. Other kids were crazy about rock stars and music. I was crazy about personal growth. I developed a habit where I would meditate 3 times a day for 15 minutes a day. And I would just consume books on spirituality, on personal growth. At the time I was 19, I decided religion was bollocks, and I decided to just completely cut myself off from organized religion and take on a path of discovering the truth, as you call it, on my own through experiential learning. So I was meditating, I was experimenting with different elements of accelerating the body's healing. So I decided I wanted to heal my dad's skin. And through a process of meditation and creative visualization, I combined different modalities. In 4 weeks, I completely, permanently cleared my pimple problem. And it never reoccurred. And I went from being the weird, ugly kid to all of a sudden, like, having girls notice me. And then I decided to try something else. I was the top kid in high school, but I was a geek. I wanted to be a rock star at sports. So I started taking up martial arts, and I set another goal. I wanted to represent Malaysia in an international martial arts tournament. And the heats came up, so I was there, and so the heat was a qualifying round. There was this big competition, and if you won in Malaysia, you got to go represent Malaysia at the US Open Taekwondo Championships in Colorado Springs, 1993. Now, here's when I noticed something else about reality that made me question the idea of reality, and that is, can we influence reality? Can we bend and mold reality in a way where, well, the ancient Hindus called it Maya. They said everything is an illusion, right? And even if you read Steve Jobs' biography, Walter Isaacson, 3 times in that biography, uses the word bending reality. He says Steve felt like he was one of the chosen ones, and only a few people had this ability. He believed that he almost could influence reality in some way. Well, I started developing that same belief when I was 19 years old. So my first vision was representing Malaysia in an international martial arts competition. And I went for the heats, and I completely bombed. I had to break 3 planks of wood, nothing broke. I lost. I ended up going to the competition anyway to support my friend Daniel, who was there, who did qualify. And Daniel was in a sparring round. You know, you're facing someone else, you kick them in the face, and you get points for every kick, just like typical US boxing. But Daniel injured his foot. So the wood breaking round came up. It's called breaking. And he said, hey, Vishen, could you just represent our dojo, our school, just put on your uniform, just get in there? Probably won't win. I know you barely qualified, but just represent our school. So coincidentally, I was pulled into a competition I'd never qualified for. But the second coincidence then happened. For whatever reason, every single piece of wood I hit with my foot broke. And at the end of that round, I'd broken 3 planks of wood in 53 seconds. And all of a sudden, I won that gold medal. I wasn't even qualified. I wasn't meant to be there. I was pulled in as a replacement. No one expected me to win. I ended up winning the gold medal. Next thing I know, I was representing Malaysia in the US Open martial arts competition. All of a sudden, I'd achieved that crazy goal of going from geek to sportsman. And I was the only guy in my entire high school who got to represent his country at an international competition. And then from there, I decided, what else can I do with my mind? And I started setting crazy big goals for myself. Things kind of fell out when I moved to the US and went to the University of Michigan. I got caught up in everything else. You know, I started drinking, all the other stuff that American college kids do, and I stopped my practice. And finally, I was in Silicon Valley in 2001, and my first business had collapsed. And I went online and I searched Silva method again. And again, this disability started coming up, and I found that I seemed to intuitively know which clients to call. And I was able to just jack up my sales ratio like over and over and over again. 4 months later, I'd been promoted 3 times. They made me director of sales even though I was 26 years old, shipped me to New York and asked me to start their New York office. I ran that for 2 years and I decided, this stuff is awesome. I want to get it out to more people. And I decided to approach the Silva Method family, and I said, I get AdWords. I'm a computer engineer by training. I know how to build a website. Let me try to market you guys. I did. That started Mindvalley, and now we're one of the world's biggest sellers of meditation. And these same abilities and things which I felt I stumbled upon as a child, I now want to spread to the world. I don't believe in religion. If I had to describe my spiritual belief, I'd say I love Richard Dawkins, and in his book, he uses this term called pantheism, which he says is sexed up atheism, but it's an idea that there is a force connecting all life on the planet. And whether you call it pantheism or you call it Jedi Knight training, I believe that there is something out there greater than us. And we don't necessarily can't explain it. We don't know how it works, but I want to get that out to the world. So anyway, that really is my story.